Hi, this is Vicki, and I'm here today to demonstrate chapter or lesson 7 typographic design in Photoshop CC 2019. In this lesson, we're going to work with text and we'll learn how to use guides to position text. We'll learn how to make a clipping mask, merge type with other layers, preview fonts, format text, and distribute text along a path. And then we'll control type and positioning using some of the advanced features. This usually takes about an hour to complete. So you'll want to open up Photoshop, reset your preferences if you're doing that, and find your Lesson 7 folder. And before we get started, I'll just say a couple of things about type in Photoshop. Type is in Photoshop is made up of vector-based shapes that describe the letters, numbers, and symbols of a typeface. Many typefaces are available in more than one format, and the most common formats are TrueType and OpenType. Type 1 or PostScript type fonts are some older font formats that are still in use today. When you add type to a document in Photoshop, the characters are made up of pixels and they have the same resolution as the image file. So if you zoom in on a character, you're going to see jagged edges. However, Photoshop preserves the vector-based type outlines and uses them whenever you scale or resize type, whenever you save a PDF or an EPS file, or if you print the image to a PostScript printer. So as a result, we get type that has crisp, resolution-independent edges. And we can also apply effects and styles to type, and we can transform the shape and size pretty easily. So I should open up the end file here so that you can see what we're about to accomplish. So I'll go to my lessons and go to lesson 7 and double click and open up the end file. So we're going to add the text to this image that actually you're going to create in a week or so, but in the book was created in the chapter prior to this one. But don't worry, they give us the image to work with. So we'll go back to the 07 start, and the first thing I want to do, of course, is save as, and I'm going to go ahead and save it as a working document. And I'd already started this yesterday, so I think I'm just going to save it as working 2 on my desktop and hit save. And then what we're going to do is we want to make sure that normally we're working in the Essentials workspace, which looks like this. But for this project, we're going to change this to another predetermined workspace that comes with Photoshop, and that's going to be Graphic and Web. And when I do that, when I change that over, you're going to see that there are some different panels that come up by default. So we still have our Layers panel down there and our Paths panel, but we also have character, paragraph, glyphs, and some other options that weren't in the Essentials workspace. And just to make sure this is even more like the book, I'm going to go ahead and reset it. So I just went up to Window, Workspace, Reset, Graphic and Web, and now everything should be just as it is in the very beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. All right, let's get started. We're going to create a clipping mask using type first. So you used a clipping mask last week, and or actually maybe it was this week, just a little bit earlier. Yeah, it was lesson 4. It's an object or a group of objects whose shape will mask other artwork so that only the areas that lie within the clipping mask are visible. So in effect, we're clipping the artwork to conform to a shape of an object or mask. And in Photoshop, you can create clipping masks from shapes or letters. In this exercise, we'll use letters. So over here in the layers panel, you can expand this a little bit if you like seeing all of your layers. We have a model and a background layer. And the background layer is going to be the foundation for our typography. So we can start by zooming in on the work area and using some guides, placing some ruler guides to help us place the type. So first thing we'll do is fit this on the screen so that it fills our screen and we can see the whole cover clearly. And then if your rulers are not already visible, go up to View and make sure there's a check mark next to rulers, and that will display rulers on the left and top. Now, if your rulers are not in inches, it's easy to fix. You're going to go up to Preferences for Photoshop, and you're going to go to Units and Rulers, and you're going to choose from this drop-down menu what you want the rulers to measure. In this case, for this project, we're going to use inches. The first thing we're going to do is drag a vertical guide from the left ruler to the center of the cover, which is at 4 1/4 inches. So all you do is click on the ruler and start dragging. You can see that you get a little measurement box there, and you can just kind of maneuver this over until, oh, my mouse is being a little sticky today. Just about, oops, oh, I had it, 4.25. Make sure that's, there we go, inches. And now we're ready to add some type. You can create horizontal or vertical type anywhere in image. You can enter point type, which is just a single letter, single word, or a line, or you can enter paragraph type. And we're going to try doing both in this lesson. So the first thing we'll do though is create some point type. In the layers panel, we want to make sure we've selected the background layer, and then we'll select the horizontal type tool, and up in the option bar, we want to select a serif typeface. We can go with what the book is using, which is Minion Pro, and we'll make sure it's regular right here. We'll type in 144 points for the size and hit enter or return to apply that. And then in the text alignment, we want to center it. Over here in the character panel, which you'll see you have 3 tabs, and the front one by default is character, we want to change the tracking value. If you don't know which one of these is the tracking value, just hover your mouse over and a little tooltip will pop up. And it's set at 10 right now, so we're going to go ahead and type in 100 for that. And the tracking value gives you the overall space between letters, which will affect the density in a line of text. Now we'll click on the center point that we added to set an insertion point, and we're going to go ahead and type in digital, all caps, and we will click this little check mark, which is commit any current edits, to apply our type. Now the word is added, and it also appears over here as a new layer, and you can edit and manage this type layer like you would any other layer. So you can add or change the text, you can change the orientation of the type, you can apply layer styles and transformations, and you can create masks. You can move this layer, you can restack it, you can copy it and edit it, and you could delete it. So the text we've put in here is large enough, but it's not really very modern, and this is sort of a modern style cover. So we're going to go ahead and apply a different font. I'm going to double click the word digital up in the image window and go ahead and open up the font family pop-up menu. Now, as I move my cursor over, whoops, with that open, stay open, you'll see in the background there that I get a preview of that font, so I can kind of see it. And if I had that moved over to the right, you'd see even more. But it does give you a live preview, which is nice. And we're going to go ahead and choose Myriad Pro. And I want it to be semi-bold. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then I'll accept my changes. And now that looks a little more modern. We can select the Move tool and drag this word digital up to the top of the cover and make sure it's centered, which it should be. And that looks about right. And then when we get it where we like it, we want to save our work. Now we're going to change this word that we've put in, and we want to make a clipping mask, and we want to have another image that shows through these letters. So first we'll open another image by going up to File, Open, browsing back to our lesson file, which should have just been the first thing to pop up. Like I said, my computer's been a little funny lately. Circuit board, TIFF, and go ahead and open that up. Now, if you just have a couple of files open, you could go up and to Window, Arrange, and go up to 2 up. So let's see what that looks like here. Since I actually have 3 files open. And it gives me, I don't really want this one, so I'm going to go ahead and close that and try that again. You can go 3 up and so forth, but we'll just follow the book and go 2 up vertical. Now both of our files appear on screen together. So we're going to click the circuit board TIFF file to make sure it's the active window. And then with the Move tool selected, we're going to hold down the Shift key as we drag the background layer from the Layers panel in the circuit board file onto the center of 07 working. And when you press Shift, it centers this. So when I let go, it's now centered. You can see that a new layer has appeared above the background and the text. And we'll go ahead and close the circuit board image because we don't need it anymore. We need to resize this. It's a little bit large. So with the layer 1 selected, we can go up to Edit, Transform, and choose Scale. You'll see that a bounding box opens up, and I want to hold down Alt on Windows or Option on Mac, and this will keep everything centered as I resize it. And I want to just size it to approximately the same width as the text, maybe just a little bit bigger. Then I can reposition this so that it covers the text and go ahead and commit my changes. Now I'll change the name of this layer by double clicking it, and I'll just change it to Circuit. It'd be nice if I spelled it right. Circuit board. If that layer isn't already selected, go ahead and select it so that it's highlighted. And then I'm going to go up to my layer panel menu here, and I'm going to create a clipping mask with this. And what you'll see is that a little downward arrow appears. There's brackets around the image now, and it points down to the layer below it. And now the circuit board is showing through the word digital and all the letters. So now we can add some other effects like an inner shadow, which will give this a little bit of depth. I'll go ahead this time and select the digital layer to make it active. And then I want to click the FX icon, which is add a layer style, and choose inner shadow. I get the layer style dialog box, and here I'm going to change. I'll scoot this over so you can see what's happening as I have preview checked, so whatever changes I make will show up there. And you can see that already there's a little bit of an inner shadow. But I'm going to change, make sure the blend mode is set to multiply. I'm going to set my opacity at 48%, which it is, my distance at 18, choke at 0, and size to 16. And the reason all these are already in here is because I had started this lesson yesterday. You'll probably have to type in or drag those sliders to get those same values. And then I will click OK, and I'll also save my work since I just did a bit to improve that. All right, you can also create type on a path. Type will follow along a path that you can create with a shape tool or a pen tool, and the direction that the type will flow depends on the order in which anchor points were added to the path. When you add the horizontal type tool to add text to a path, the letters are perpendicular to the baseline of the path, and if you change the location or the shape of the path, the type moves with it. Now we're going to create some type on a path to make it look like questions are coming from the model's mouth. And lucky for us, the path is already created. So we will choose in our layers panel the model layer, and then we're going to go up to Window, Paths, because we want the Paths box to open. It opened way over there on the left. And we can actually dump this. If we were going to use it a lot, we could just dump it right in here to the Layers panel group. And there's only one path here, so I'm going to select that. It's called the speech path. And now I can see that the path appears to be coming out of the model's mouth. I'll select the horizontal type tool, and in the option bar up here, I want to choose right align. In the character panel, I'm going to make some changes. I want Myriad Pro regular for my text, my font family and style. I want to reduce the size to just 14 points. It was a little big, that I don't want it the size of that digital. The tracking we're going to reduce to -10, so that's going to make it much more dense. The color we're going to choose is white. And we're going to choose all caps if it's not already chosen. Now I can move the type tool over the path. And when a small slanted line appears right there, I'm going to click the end of the path closest to the model's mouth, and I'm going to go ahead and type, "What's new with games?" I will select the word games and change I want the question mark too, I think. Change its font style to bold. And I will commit those edits And now I have a little line of type on a path that looks like it's coming from the models. Now, we'll go back to our layers panel and make sure that what's new with games layer is selected. Then we're going to duplicate this from the layer panel menu up here. And we will duplicate layer, and we're going to change the, instead of games, we're going to replace this word with music. And say OK. We can't see it yet. It's right on top of the old text. But because I have it selected, I can select the word games, and it's going to actually come out to be music. I'll commit my changes, and then I'm going to choose the free transform. So, oops, edit, free transform path. I get another bounding box, and I want to rotate this up. So I'm looking for my arrows with the curved line with the double arrows, and I'm going to rotate this about 15 degrees. Then I'm going to shift this path up above the first one and a little bit to the right so that it looks like it's above the first one. Then I'll commit my changes, and now I have a second line of text just above the first one. If you don't like this, you can adjust that, and because I got something other than, oops, okay, I'm just trying to select music. I'm actually really trying to, there we go. I'm going to type that in again because for some reason I didn't get a question mark. Now I'll commit that. There we go. That looks better. We'll go back to our games layer and duplicate that again using the panel menu. This one will change to phones. And again, with the type tool, we'll double click on that last, oops, make sure I'm on the right layer here. There we go, and change that to phones. Go up to edit. Whoops, I think I need to commit that first. Then go up to edit. Free transform the path. Find my curved line with the double arrows. Rotate it negative 15 degrees this time, because we want this one going down. Then I can move that slightly down below the original one. Commit those changes, and then you can go back and finesse that just a little bit. And somehow I got 2 question marks there, so go ahead and just replace that with 1. There we go. All right, so we've created 3 lines of type on a path to go on our cover. Because that was quite a bit of work, we want to make sure we save it. Now, the text here on a curvy path is a lot more interesting than straight lines, but now we're going to warp it to make it a little more playful. And warping allows you to distort type to conform to a variety of shapes, like an arc or a wave. The warp style that you select is an attribute of the type layer, So you can change a layer's warp style at any time to change the overall shape of the warp. The warping options give you very good control over the orientation and the perspective of the warp effect. Let's go ahead and zoom in just a little bit to this area. So that you can see what's happening. And then in the layer panel, I want you to right click if you're on Windows or control click if you're on the Mac, the What's New with Games layer, and then scroll down until you get to Warp Text, which is almost at the bottom. A little dialog box will open up, and I want to choose Wave. You can go ahead and try a couple of these to see what happens, but we'll use Wave. And then we'll put in some specific values. So we want the bend to be 33%, oops, not 533, but 33. We want horizontal distortion to be negative 23% and vertical distortion to be 5%. So the bend slider specifies how much warp is applied, and the horizontal and vertical distortions determine the perspective of the warp. Now we've got a little bit more of like a wave on the cover for this. So we're going to repeat that. We'll say OK, and then we're going to repeat that for the other two lines of text. I'll right click or control click, go all the way down to Warp Text, choose Wave, and then put in my values. 33, I think I forgot, negative 23, and 5. And we'll do it one more time with What's New with Music. Right click, Warp Text, Wave, 33%, minus 23, and 5. Let's see, OK. And that was quite a bit of work, so let's go ahead and put it on the screen and then save our work. So everything we've done so far has been point type, a few words or a line, but a lot of designs call for full paragraphs of text. So you can design complete paragraphs of type in Photoshop. You can apply paragraph styles. You don't have to switch over to a dedicated layout program like InDesign. It's built right in here to Photoshop. We're going to add a couple of paragraphs to the cover, but first we'll add some guides. You want to make sure you can see the top of the document, and then we're going to drag another guide from over here on the left and put it about 1/4 inch from the edge. So this is at 8.5, so we want it to be about 8.25. And then we'll drag a guide down from the top ruler and put it about 2 inches from the top. Now we're ready to add some text. Now I'll just warn you, this is where things went very awry for me yesterday. So it is possible that I'm going to stop the recording if it goes awry, even after updating Photoshop, and I'll have to try to figure this out. So in a real-world design environment, you might get the text for some copy for a project in any number of ways. You might get a Word processing document, or it might come in the body of an email, which you could just copy and paste into Photoshop. You might have to just type it in yourself. But another easy way to add a bit of text is for the copywriter to attach it to the image file in a sticky note, which you can see down on the bottom right. So select the Move tool and then double click the sticky note in the lower right corner to open it up in the Notes panel. And voila, it opened. Oh my goodness. Super excited because this panel did not open yesterday. So if that happens to you, just save your work, shut down, and maybe install any updates in Photoshop. So I expanded the panel so that I could see all of the text. And in the Notes panel, I want to select all the text. Then I want to Control-C for Windows or Command-C on a Mac to copy it to the clipboard. Then I can close the Notes panel. I'll want to select the model layer and select the horizontal type tool, and then press Shift as we start up here where these guidelines intersect about 1/4 inch from the right and 2 inches from the top, and then hold the Shift key as I start to drag a text box down and to the left. Then I can release the Shift key and continue dragging until the box is about 4 inches wide by 8 inches high. So I'll keep going here. It's going to be about the center line and almost to the bottom. Or just over 8, so that'll be fine. Then I can, and everything is aligned with the guides that we created. Then I can let go and Control-V or Command-V to paste that text that I copied from the note into the text box. And the text, there's a new text layer at the top of the layers or above the model layer, and the text is in front of the model. Now I'm going to select part of this text, the first 3 lines, the trend issue, and I'm going to change the characters of this. So I'm going to go over to the character panel, and I like Myriad Pro. It's a sans serif font, so I'll keep that. Then I want it to be regular. I want the size to be 70 points. The leading to be 55, and again, if you don't know where the leading is, just hover over. Right now it's set to auto, but we're going to set it at 55, and because it's not there, we're going to type it in. Then tracking will be 50. We're going to go back up on the tracking to add a little more space between letters. Alignment is going to be to the right, and the color is white. So with all those, oh, and the reason I pressed Shift as I dragged that text box off is because that makes sure that Photoshop creates a new text layer instead of selecting an existing text layer. Okay, sorry, let's see, color white. All right, so now looking pretty good. Now I'll select just the word trend and change the style of that to bold. Now I've formatted the title. If I click anywhere outside here, I can see my changes. Now I'll select the rest of the text that I pasted in, and in the character panel over here, we're going to leave it Myriad Pro. We're going to go back to regular. Our font size is going to go to 22, so just a little bit bigger. Our leading will be 28. And our tracking will be 0. Oops, what happened? Put that to 0. And what was the leading was 28. There we go. There we go. I'm going to deselect all caps because I don't want this to be all caps. Now that's looking pretty good. But all this is the same, so we want to make something stand out, and we'll make our headline stand out. So I'm going to select what's hot and choose bold and up the size just a little bit to 28. Okay, so that's a little better. Now I'll do the what's not. I'll do the same thing for that. I'll make this bold and bump up the size to 28. And then I'm going to select the word trend one more time, and I want to change this text color to green. So let's pick something that looks good with up above. And there we go. Let's save our changes, since, as usual, that was a lot of work. And we'll keep going on. Now we're almost finished with the text. Now we just need to add the volume number in the upper right corner. So we'll create a rectangle with rounded corners that will serve as the background for the volume number. In the Tools panel, you want to choose the Rounded Rectangle tool, and then draw a rectangle in the space above the letter L in the upper right corner, placing its right edge along the guide. So we're going to start at the very top and just go along the guide. It looks like it goes about like that. In the Properties panel over here, we'll type in 67 pixels for the width. And then in the fill color here, we're going to choose a pastel yellow. There's a swatch for pastel yellow, so you may have to scroll around until you find it. Where is my pastel yellow? Whoops. Green, green, green. What happened to my pastel yellow? I'll have to reset that. But for the meantime, I think I'm going to go for this light yellow. No, that doesn't look good at all. Light yellow orange. Where's the pastels? Pastel pea green, yellow green, pastel green. It's so weird that my pastel yellow has disappeared. Well, I think that would be a little closer. So I'll go ahead and use, oh, how funny. It is supposed to be the pastel yellow orange, and that is the color. I just didn't read all the words. So we don't want to stroke, so we'll make sure that that's our fill color, and we don't want to stroke. Yeah, no stroke, okay? And by default, all those corners in the rectangle have the same radius, but we can adjust it. So let me zoom in on this a little bit. So you can see that they all have the same radius, but we want to adjust each corner separately. So we only want the lower left corner to be rounded. Over here, back in the Properties panel, we want to click the link to deselect. Sorry, I'm trying to read and do at the same time. The link together corner radius values. So let me make sure I have the right spot. I don't think that's it. Must be that. Okay, I'm going to deselect that. And then I'm going to change. I should probably be seeing more options. There we go. That's what I want to unlink. Sorry, if you don't see that at first, go ahead and scroll down within that panel. So you want to see where you can change the radius of each corner. And then we'll change the bottom left to 16. And we're going to set all the others to 0. So they'll have sharp corners. Then and each one, hit enter or return, and you can see that each one has changed except for the lower left. And then if it isn't already there, you can select the move tool and move this so that it hangs down like a ribbon and the right edge is right up against the ruler guide. Up in the option bar, you want to select Show Transform Controls and drag the bottom of the rectangle down so that it is close to the letter L. And I think mine is probably close enough. So they're just adjusting the length. And then you can commit those changes. I'm going to go ahead and deselect that since I think that did something to me a week or so ago because it's not the default. Now we'll add the volume number. So I'll deselect all of my layers, select the vertical type tool, and that is hidden underneath the horizontal type tool. Press the Shift key, and that will add a new layer, and then click near the bottom of the triangle that we just created. So I'll go ahead and click down here. I want to type in volume 9. And the letters are huge, so we need to change the size right away. I'll select all, and in the character panel, since I can't see them, I can go up to the select menu to select all and make sure I get all of those characters I just typed in. We'll leave it at Myriad Pro or any other sans serif that you like. And then we're going to use a light or condensed style a narrow style like condensed. So let's choose condensed and see how that looks. Let's reduce the font size to 15. The tracking we want at 10. And the color we want to change to black. We'll commit our changes, and then if you need to, select the Move tool and you can center this. It looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to leave it. Maybe it needs to go up just a hair. All right, let's save our work and clean everything up a little bit. First, I'll fit back on screen. We can get rid of that note. So if I click it, it selects it. And then I can right click or control click and delete the note. It's going to ask me, are you sure you want to delete it? Then we can hide the guides by choosing the hand tool, or you can press Control or Command to temporarily hide the guides. Or if that doesn't work, which it just didn't work with me, I can go down to the View, Show, Guides, and unclick those so that my guides have disappeared. They're still there, but they're just hiding now. Now I've done a great job with this cover, so I'll again make sure I save it. And now we're going to flatten it. We're going to save a copy, flatten it, and I think we're going to save it as a PDF. So I will save as and add to, instead of O working 2, I'm going to add flattened to it. And I will save it where I've saved my other copies. The reason for that is that my copy with all the layers still exists in case I have to go back and do any editing. But now with this copy, I can go ahead and flatten it. It'll merge everything into the background layer and just save it. And that concludes lesson 7 for typographic design. If you did want to save this as a PDF, you could export it, or you could save as and send it off to someone as a PDF for their review. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now, and thank you so much for being here with me.